Bet on yourself. That's the message I want you to take away from this video today. Believe you can do something and then go out there and do it. You are the best. If you need some extra motivation too, let's look at some other people that did this. Because I am time for What Culture. Please do subscribe. This is 10 times wrestlers bet on themselves and won. Number 10, Cody Rhodes in 2022. This one is still mad. Nobody thought that Cody Rhodes, one of the major brains behind AEW, was ever going to go back to WWE. And in fact, in the odd interview, the American Nightmare had said the same. He felt like he'd made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. Now, this was a very nice bed with wonderful pillows, and let's not pretend otherwise. In terms of legacy, Rhodes has already cemented his because, again, he was part of a troupe who decided we needed proper wrestling competition, and he went and made it happen. So actually, Cody bet on himself twice. More on that later. But in February 2002, it all of a sudden came to light that Rhodes was working without a contract for All Elite Wrestling when, yep, it was announced he was leaving. The world stood still. His last act was to drop the TNT title back to Sammy Guevara before he returned to WWE with the new character he had developed elsewhere. And look at what has happened since. He won the Royal Rumble, he main evented WrestleMania, and he is a champion. So much for the whispers that Cody would be Stardust again within a month. And even if that happens now, it would not matter. This dude has totally smashed it. Number 9, AJ Styles in 2013. AJ Styles was pivotal to TNA's success. One of their homegrown talents that connected with a wider audience. The unthinkable happened in 2013 when he told everyone he was done. Yep. Amazingly, this was because the promotion had informed Styles that he would have to accept a pay cut to re-sign, even though numerous veterans had come through the door and been paid a fortune. Quite rightfully, AJ felt slighted and left. Knowing he wasn't offered what he was worth, the Phenomenal One then decided to take the biggest jump of his career. He went out there to see what was going on. He soon joined New Japan, because they knew, where he teamed up with the Bullet Club and targeted none other than Okada. AJ then became a 2-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion. During the second of these reigns, my word. For whatever reason, everything clicked, selling out buildings and having a wonderful feud with Tanahashi, and Styles became one of the most important assets the promotion had. In fact, he made so much of a buzz that, yep, in 2016, WWE finally came a-calling. Nobody could argue with AJ Styles anymore. He was on top of everything. Number 8, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in 2022. So the wrestling universe seems intent on joining these two at the hip. So why can't we do the same? Kevin Owens' and Sami Zayn's relationship remains a delight on WWE TV, although in 2022 this did have the potential to change. Their contracts were due, so the conversation soon shifted to whether or not they were going to jump ship and join AEW. There were certainly plenty of reasons why this could happen, the major one being a lot of their best friends were there, when it was revealed that no, Kevin and Sam had re-upped with WWE, presumably for a lot of money. Good for them, they absolutely earned it. There's a more important aspect to this though, because it's what happens afterwards. Because not only was Owens picked to headline WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin, which I honestly don't think can be topped, Zayn was given an element of creative freedom, and look at him now, he is one of the most popular guys in WWE. So there's no way you can say they did the wrong thing, because as of me speaking, they are two of the most integral parts of the landscape. Can you imagine the company without them? No. Not at all. It wouldn't surprise me either if within the next 12 months both have a run with the world title too. It really has been quite inspiring to see. Number 7, Hulk Hogan in 1993. The steroid scandal in 1992 and 1993 sent wrestling into a bad period. You can get the headlines on the Very Good Dark Side of the Ring episode if you need more, but just know the then WWF was dragged through the courts, and it didn't look good at all. Even though McMahon and his business was eventually let off, he still knew something had to change to save the image of the company. The first of which was downsizing when it came to the monster physiques his roster had made a name showing off. This meant the likes of the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan were told to back off a little bit, and as it tied into a downturn in the business, the Hulkster decided he was going to go elsewhere. So he did. Now the major reason was simply because Hulkamania had run its course and Hulk needed to do something fresh. But WCW were offering a fortune, so why would you not go and try it? What's the worst that could happen? As it turned out, the answer was a similar dip after a short period of joy, which is when Hogan decided to risk it all, and he went bad guy. This has been spoken about to the point of lunacy today, but never underestimate it. Even though Hulk's star wasn't as bright, seeing him walk to the ring at Bash at the Beach and drop the leg on the Macho Man Randy Savage stopped everything in its tracks, because nobody could flubbing believe it. He also helped form the NWO and went on such a good run as a heel that it reminded everyone he was an all-time talent. I mean, who else flipped the switch this well? It also allowed World Championship Wrestling to climb to the top of the sports entertainment tree, and let's face it, that likely doesn't happen without Hulk Hogan. Number 6, FTR in 2020. Half the roster was basically forced to bet on themselves in 2020 when WWE cut dozens of wrestlers from their contracts during a pandemic. But it was slightly different with FTR. 5 days before this fateful occasion, they asked for their release, and they got it. This wasn't the first time the Revival had requested it either, because their vision of wrestling just didn't match up to how WWE wanted to use them. Cash and Dax wanted to take tag team grappling to the next level. Management wanted them to rub Uzi hot on their testicles. I mean, that's not even in the same district. It was still a risk, as they were likely offered at least one lucrative contract to stay. This wasn't about money, it was about reputation. Man, did they go and kill it. Soon picked up by AEW, they proceeded to back up their words in every sense, while also winning titles in All Elite Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and AAA. That doesn't just happen either. This wasn't a favor. Everybody believed they were the best. The fact they did this when the world stopped just made it even more of a risk, but there's some more motivation for you. If deep down in your tum-tum you just know, go and do it, there is nothing stopping you. Number 5, Chris Jericho in 2017. Not even Chris Jericho had this on his radar. Sort of just happened. Already a Hall of Famer come 2017, he was still in WWE when he became the United States Champion after a wonderful program with Kevin Owens. Seriously, if you've never seen it, change that. It is so much fun. By May, he was gone, aside from a brief appearance in July, when all this madness started. Because after his WWE contract officially expired, Don Callis had the idea that Jericho should head to New Japan to take on Kenny Omega in a match that would likely get everybody talking. Bingo. For one, this was somewhat of a dream fight, but also, no one thought Jericho was ever going to do anything but work for Vince McMahon. He had even said as much. Such was the response, though, and the fact that Chris really enjoyed himself. All of a sudden, his love for wrestling was renewed and his opinion changed. AEW then came along, and we know the rest. What we have to remember is that Jericho didn't really need to do any of this. He was a well-established star that could have just popped back to the so-called big leagues whenever he wanted, but that wasn't enough. He wanted to increase his effect on the industry further, and boom, that's exactly what he did. Number 4, Mercedes Moné in 2022. Well, what a roller coaster this was. After Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of WWE in the summer of 2022, the thought was they'd always come back. And then they didn't. Ruh-roh. We shall focus on Banks here just because we don't know what Naomi's plans are at the moment, but this was a huge deal for Sasha. Most assumed she would be with WWE forever. I mean, why not? Clearly slightly tired of the process, though, the soon-to-be Mercedes Moné decided she wanted a new challenge, and yeah, she turned up at flippin' Wrestle Kingdom to confront Kairi Sane. This was nuts. Weeks later, she was fighting for New Japan in the States, where she not only sold out the venue, but became the Stardom champion. I remember looking at this and going, I'll tell you, it's like a Reddit thread. The match was also so damn good and has set Moné up for an awesome 2023. Could literally turn up anywhere, and has proven to any doubters she's the real deal. Just think how easy it would have been to return to WWE too, because I bet the cash bag was waiting. The best part is, whenever she wants to, she can still grab it. That is utter success right there. Number 3, The Outsiders in 1996. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall jumping to WCW was an all-time moment. Without it, do we get the wrestling boom or the Attitude Era? The answer is probably not. This was the catalyst to it all. They also left the WWE under a cloud of smoke with the infamous curtain call. When they arrived in World Championship Wrestling, nobody knew what was happening. Don't pretend that kayfabe was alive and well, because it wasn't. But this was so well executed, people did second-guess themselves. I mean, Razor Ramon just leapt over the barrier during a Nitro, and he told us his real name. What? When Nash did the same, it was just an utter meltdown, and the reason it clicked was simple. Fans wanted to know what the hell was going to go down. The fact it all led to the NWO and WCW sitting pretty for well over a year just shows its impact, and it turned Hall and Nash into even bigger stars than they already were. It also made them super rich. Vince McMahon didn't want them to leave either, so there was a risk to some degree. It definitely paid off. Literally. Number 2, Cody Rhodes in 2016. So we hinted at this earlier, and when it comes to Cody, this one may have been even more of a risk. was astonishing. For in 2016, Rhodes was stuck with the Stardust gimmick. He was happy to continue it on either Raw or SmackDown as long as on the other show he could just be himself. And while WWE acted like that was a possibility, they then changed their minds. That happens a lot. It kind of told Cody that while he saw himself as a future world champion, the company didn't, so what was he meant to do? Well, how about ask for your release, head out onto the indie scene, and prove everybody wrong? That's exactly what he did. Rhodes became a major star in Ring of Honor New Japan and destroyed it on the indie scene before, as we've already mentioned, helped to build AEW. I honestly don't think anybody could ever top this in terms of leaving a promotion and proving it was the correct thing to do. This is and always will be absolutely legendary. Number 1, Jon Moxley. Is Jon Moxley AEW's most valuable asset? You can certainly argue it. Ever since he arrived in 2019, he has been so important to All Elite Wrestling, and WWE knew this when his contract came due the same year. It's why in the 3 months prior to this, we got some really weird moments, such as being told he was probably out the door. There was even some chat that Nia Jax was going to beat him on some house shows. You tell me. It's quite clear that regardless, the then Dean Ambrose was going to go no matter the money, which is why he didn't even look at the new deal WWE presented him with. That was irrelevant, with Mox wanting to get back to what made him fall in love with wrestling in the first place. Originally, that wasn't even meant to be AEW. John was more than happy in going to Japan or back to the independents. When he got a phone call from Christopher Jericho, everything changed. Ever since that, he has totally reinvented himself, and I tell you, WWE would do backflips to get him back. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Know of any other wrestlers that bet on themselves and won? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read yourself some articles. Make sure you come follow us on social media at WhatCultureWWE and Time 316. And if you would care to click one of these videos on the screen right now, we'd appreciate it. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you as always for joining me. Now make sure you go out there and become a huge success yourself, because you can do it and nobody will stop you.